Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its vision change your heart. Please rise in singing our opening hymn in the Teal hymnal. Number 1000, Morning Has Come. Good morning. Welcome to First Parish in Milton. My name is Amy Cavadlo and I'm a member of our worship committee. I am so happy to introduce to you today our guest speaker who comes to us from Milton Muslim neighbors. We are so glad you have chosen to be here with us this morning or to join us virtually. However your journey, whatever your heritage, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Your presence here on Sunday morning enriches worship for everyone. This sanctuary is made holy by your presence. If you are joining us for the first time, a special welcome. You will find information about First Parish in your pew. One of the greeters or I would be happy to answer questions you might have. We are not having social hour today because of the holiday. The work of living our faith is done both in and out of worship, so I call your attention to the printed announcements that came with your order of worship. Please take a look. In particular, there are two items to which I'd like to draw your attention, because these are the most, the ones that are coming up soonest. We do have a First Parish yard sale. It's scheduled for June 18th. You should have received an email about it, and there will be more information in the weekly link. Donations will be accepted starting on Sunday, June 12th. We're still looking for volunteers. This is an event that needs a cast of thousands. So contact Jen Pincus if you can help out. The other one is that the All-Church Council will take place this Friday, June 3rd at 6 p.m. All committee chairs are encouraged to attend, but everyone is welcome. There will be more there will be more information in the link, and if you have any questions, please reach out to Glenn Pavlicek. Thank you. Now, let us take a few minutes to greet one another and extend a warm welcome to old friends and new. Of course, as you know, we need to be COVID safe. Please stay in your seats and greet your friends as enthusiastically as you like. Stay where you are, though. And if you are on Zoom, please show your face, go to gallery view so you can say hello to others who are Zooming in.
Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday.
Hello, hello. Good to see you. Beautiful day today.
Lisa, your shirt matches your painting.
Beautiful day.
India, you're on mute. You're saying something?
Muggy in Dorchester.
As we enter into worship, please take a moment to make sure your cell phones are silenced. Now is the moment we can focus on being here, when we can choose to connect with ourselves, when we can choose to connect with the divine, when we can choose to just be present. Each Sunday, we light the chalice as a reminder that even in an increasingly unpredictable and dangerous world, the flame continues to shine. A corner of warmth and awareness where we, the members of this faith community, can find comfort, support, and connection to one another.
Good morning. I'm Mona Abuzina, a member of the Muslim Milton Neighbors, and live here in Milton. I'm here to share with you a story for the times, but I wanted to start by just saying how much I appreciate having you all at First Parish as my neighbor. This is my first time being here with you all in person, but living in Milton for about the last 8 years, I probably have driven by here countless times. And I've noticed the signage that has made me and many others feel welcome, whatever historical period we are enduring, just being good neighbors and taking care of one another. Those things help make people feel psychologically safe and physically safe. So right now, we're at a very difficult time, I feel, between the balance of heartbreak and hope. I don't know about you all, but I am often afraid to turn on the news or listen to the news because of whatever I might be hearing. So we're still thinking about, the decades, and I appreciate the land acknowledgement at the beginning of this worship service for the land on which we stand, in Indigenous land, the years of enslavement that have been the cornerstones of this country, but the violence that's been directed, with the killing of George Floyd, and also with, just in the last 2 weeks, so much gun violence that targets minoritized people in this separate approach. So I catch myself feeling really worried and feeling a lack of hope. So I wanted to share with you a hopeful reimagination. And this hopeful reimagination is just some reflections on the life of Malcolm X, who lived in the Boston area for many years. Malcolm X had come up through Boston in a period of, within the United States, in a period where there was much racial segregation and violence, and he was part of originally a separatist movement, a black separatist movement that you've probably heard about, the Nation of Islam. And after that experience, he had another transformative experience, going first through Cairo, the Egyptian capital, where I'm from originally, then to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. There he witnessed claims he never saw in the United States: people of all colors and nationalities treating each other equally. Quoting Malcolm X, "Throngs of people, obviously Muslim, from everywhere, bound for the pilgrimage." He began to notice at the airport terminal before going for Cairo and then to Mecca, were hugging and embracing. They were of all complexions. The whole atmosphere was of warmth and friendliness. The feeling hit me that there really wasn't any color problem here. The effect was though I had just stepped out of a prison. So I'm thinking about how we've been imprisoned to see and to other one another, to treat each other in these different ways, and how we can sort of reimagine ways to connect. So one concrete thing that he experienced was the state of ihram. So in Mecca, performing this pilgrimage, he was wearing the obligatory uniform, the two very simple pieces of white cloth covering the upper and the lower part of the body. It's required that it not be stitched. And if you think about it, very similar to, at least within Islam, the funeral shroud, what we would be covered in when we're buried. He wrote, "You could be a king or a peasant, and no one would know." That, of course, is the point of ihram, that simple white clothing. As Islam interprets it, it reflects the equality of people before God. And so I stand here in appreciation and reflection with you about how we can reimagine that sort of boundlessness and the connection so that we can embrace each other as you all have done, and reflect and heal from the experiences that we've seen. Thank you.
The reading this morning, O Beauty, by Muslim scholar Ibn Hazm. Beauty is something that has in language no other name than the one that designates it, but is unanimously perceived by the souls when they see it. It is like a fine linen covering the face, a glance that inclines hearts toward it, in such a way that opinions coincide in judging its beautiful, and although it does not possess fine qualities, everyone sees it, admires it, considers it beautiful, even though contemplating its separate qualities afterwards, one finds nothing remarkable. It seems like something that lies within the soul of the contemplated object and is found by the soul of whoever contemplates it. This is the highest of the categories of beauty.
Rivers wide or ocean deep, in valleys green or mountains steep, from open plains to snowy peaks, when all words fail, still music speaks. A thought alone is incomplete, and spoken language is too weak when we can't find the words we seek. When all words fail, still music speaks. A song lives on when words depart. None can compare with music's art. A message words cannot impart is heard when music moves the heart. A thought alone is incomplete, and spoken language is too weak when we can't find the words we seek. When all words fail, still music speaks. When all words fail, still music speaks. Music speaks.
So that was beautiful. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent and merciful. It's really a pleasure for me to reflect with you all about beauty. And I think about beauty and the different ways it manifests itself. So issues of beauty are, of course, timeless, and at the same time, contemplating it in the moment we're in strikes me as moments of inspiration, but no moments of fear and concern. I'm a mother of teenagers. The amount of beauty products and other issues because of a concern about their appearance and how that affects self-esteem. And I think about that's not just for teenagers, but for us throughout our lifespan. What are the examples of beauty that we may see? A smile crinkle from the eyes, even though our masks might be covering the smile, the drawings of young children, but then we also see so much ugliness, whether it's hatred or animosity or just lack of concern or empathy. How do we even think about the internal hatred that might drive us towards hurting ourselves to try to appear more beautiful, whatever ways that might be? So I think about these issues and how they're portrayed in social media and create this constant, focus on how we appear, this looking glass that we can't sort of escape from. And I think about how do we settle the stillness that you all are helping practice? How do we cultivate that inner beauty and where that inner glow, that natural beauty may come from? So those are some of the things that I'm wanting to talk about now, the sources of inner beauty, the beauty of the soul that, from the thoughts that were shared earlier today. Where does that come from? And from an Islamic perspective, we think about that as coming from the knowledge of Allah. And Allah is the Arabic term for God. So Christian Arabs, like Lebanese, Egyptians, use the same term, Allah, the one God. The submission to Allah. So Islam, the word Islam comes from the word submission to the will of God, and also it has the word salam built into it, so peace through submission to Allah. So when we think about Allah, this Arabic name, as I mentioned, where there is non-gendered, there's a way that we describe Allah within Islam, Asma Allah al-Husna. These are the 99 names. They're called the beautiful names of the characteristics that describe Allah. So some of them include As-Salam, the embodiment of peace, Al-Wadud, the most loving, Al-Kareem, the most generous. And you've probably heard some of these names with basketball players, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Some of these names may be somewhat familiar to you, and they're certainly familiar across different faith traditions. So while highlighting commonalities across traditions, I also want to highlight some particularities within Islam. So today we'll talk briefly about unity and diversity that is embodied within Islam, but also across different faith traditions, particularly the monotheistic or Abrahamic faith traditions. So kind of a quick kind of overview. Some of you may be already familiar, but we'll first start with the articles of faith, because the basic idea is in order to actually engage in some of religious behaviors for us as Muslims, the primary thing is having intention, having faith. So these 6 articles, the first of which is the attestation of faith, the testing faith. Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. That la ilaha illallah, that all of Allah's creation, all of what Allah's created is designed according to the highest level of heavenly standard and splendor. So everything in the cosmos, every object is beautiful and needs to be reflected on. So a simple thing like looking at the candlelight and thinking about a flame and how it sort of may reflect, or a bubble, how it reflects the different colors. All of these examples that we have, the oceans, the rivers wide and the oceans deep, swearing by the alternation of the day and night, these are all opportunities for us to reflect on Allah. The second article of faith is to believe in the messengers and the prophets without discrimination. So the messengers we consider in Islam to be mortal human beings who are endowed by divine revelation from Allah. They're appointed by God to teach, to model just living, to model these prophetic goals and examples. And many of the same prophets we share. So Adam and Noah, Moses, Abraham, Ismail, Jacob, Jesus, and the last of the prophets being Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon them all. And these prophets all teach us to enjoin good and to forbid evil. One of the ways they teach us is through the text. So the third article of faith for Muslims is through the revelations and belief in the revelations. So we believe in these scriptures, but we believe in them as they were complete and in their original form. So the Psalms of David, the Torah or the Old Testament that was revealed to Moses, the New Testament that was revealed to Jesus, and the last testament, which was the Quran revealed to Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon them all. As Muslims, we believe that for different reasons, many of the earlier texts have been changed. You hear about different versions for historical reasons, but that the Quran has stayed protected, and that Allah, one of the miracles of the Quran is that it has stayed protected. The word Quran comes from an Arabic meaning to recite, so it's a recitation. If you were to visit a mosque in a worship service, you would hear the recitation of the Quran. You might hear lots of Muslims sometimes playing it on their phones or in their cars, and it sounds very, because it's a type of poetry, it sounds very musical to the ear, even if you don't necessarily understand the words. The fourth article of faith is belief in the angels. So the angels, we believe, are created from light. They are divine creation like we are, but unlike us, because they don't have free will, they are completely subservient to Allah. So there are no kind of errors or mistakes. Angels obey and they conduct worship as Allah Azza wa Jal, as Allah the most the highest has ordained them, and they have particular jobs such as recording, our deeds, and the angel of death coming to take us at the end of our life. This end of our life comes to us usually in the form of the fifth thing that we believe in, which is the Day of Judgment. So the Day of Judgment, when the world as we know it comes to an end, so the mountains are made asunder, the sky implodes, everything will change, and we as human beings will be resurrected and held accountable for our deeds. We believe that all of us need the mercy of God to be able to make it to heaven, but that our deeds and our intentions will hopefully protect us. And that this idea of a day of judgment is one of the manifestations of the characteristics of Allah being al-adl, the characteristic being the most fair. So if somebody basically cheated on their tests all throughout the semester, I'm a professor, if they cheated on their tests all throughout the semester, or if they didn't finish their final assignments, you wouldn't expect them to get the highest grade in the class as the person who's conscientiously working throughout all of the time. But we also believe that Allah, with the best example, is a merciful kind of grader of us. So if you've shown improvement, if you're, that all of those things we're hopeful will sort of count in our scales. And finally, we believe in predestination, which is that the ultimate sort of knowledge of the world and our actions within the world are already known to Allah. So a lot of times, especially our youth get very confused. They're like, well, how can I be held accountable for something if it's already predestined? So the idea is, though it's predestined, but we still have, as humans, free will, and we have to behave in the world as if we don't necessarily know the outcome. So the idea being, if you're a parent or you already know, for example, if chocolate or vanilla, if you know a person very well, they're probably going to pick whatever flavor that you expect. So Allah, our Creator, knows us and knows the directions we're going to choose, but wouldn't hold us accountable for things that we didn't, that we had no choice in. So we have free will, but the predestiny being that Allah knows before we actually engage in the actions what our choices and what our pathways are going to be. And sometimes for many of us, this helps us have a little bit more peace as we encounter difficulties. You apply for a job, or you maybe get discharged from a job, or whatever, something happens in your life, you encounter an illness, and then you realize like, oh, well, that was actually this part of my test, and then it was actually really good that I left that job and I had a much better opportunity that came later on that I wouldn't have necessarily chosen. So for many of us, the kind of predestination or predestiny is something that's really helpful for us in orienting and realizing like Allah's in charge, like God's in charge, and we're required to do our homework, but knowing that God is in charge. So once you have these articles of faith, once we as Muslims believe these things, then we start engaging in particular actions. So you may be familiar with some of these. And the notion of having faith without action doesn't sort of work. It's like a battery. You need the whole circuit to be complete. So in Islam, the faith needs to manifest itself in good actions. And the first good action is the shahada, which is, if you'll remember, the very first article of faith. So you don't just believe in God, but you reflect on all the signs in the universe, from the individual thinking there is no God but God, and that Muhammad is his final messenger, as we mentioned, all the other messengers we also believe in. And this would be something that you understand with the mind, you believe and affirm with your heart, and then you act on with your tongue and with all your other limbs. So just an important thing. And we say the shahada from the second pillar of faith throughout all of our obligatory prayers. So if you've worked with Muslims, if you've been around Muslims before, you know that a practicing Muslim observes 5 daily prayers, and these daily prayers are appointed with the time of the day. So a longer day like now, they're from pre-dawn to noontime to sunset and like the later night. So during the summer times, it's throughout the day. When the days are shorter, like in the winter time, they're compressed. But in these times, we stop what we're doing. We have that stillness with God. And again, your mind, your soul, your body are all involved in this worship, in a physical worship, in an emotional worship. You clean yourself before the prayer. So sometimes people will say like, oh, I've gone to such and such a bathroom, say at work, and there's like water on the floor. And if there's a Muslim there, they're engaging in this washing up to the elbows and the face and the feet. So all of these things are part of the ways that we clean ourselves bodily to help, purify ourselves emotionally and spiritually as well. One of the most beautiful things I was talking with Amy as I came in about what would a mosque look like. And if you haven't been to a mosque, it's a very different physical structure. The pews are not here. We have just open carpets usually and a few folding chairs, because our prayer includes the prostrations where we are considered closest to God when our nose is on the ground facing Mecca, towards like in submission to Allah. And if you think about it, would you do that for anybody? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't prostrate, put your nose to the ground, and that sort of, for a human being, it would be very humiliating. But when you're doing it for the sake of Allah, it's something that you feel like you're happy to submit in that way. So people who, for physical ability reasons, who couldn't do that, could be in a chair and have that accommodation and maybe just bow their head. But it's a very open space. So just imagine sometimes when children are there, if they haven't been very accustomed, it's like a very open space. And so they might be the running laps, especially between the prayers. So that submission in the prayer time is such a significant thing. So there is no intermediary. There is no person who's between you. You are directly stating your claims, making your supplication to your Creator. So this helps us come into focus. The salah comes from the Arabic term sila, the connection. You have a direct connection. So thinking about you're meeting your boss 5 times a day, that's a lot of meetings. And you could have additional meetings as well. And if you think about, whatever our challenges, our vices are, when you know that you're going to be submitting yourself, your timesheet, your deeds from, these 5 times a day, it's harder to go astray because you feel like, oh, I have to sort of keep on the path. These prayers tend to be really beautiful to see because when they're done in congregation, you see these lines. So this is what Malcolm X was talking about. These lines of people, shoulder to shoulder, foot to foot. Doesn't matter sort of your socioeconomic status, your race, by gender. It is segregated by gender, where the men are in one area and the women are in another. But these types of things create this unity within this diverse community. The third pillar for Muslims is almsgiving, which I know we'll be exploring a little bit here in different ways, but almsgiving within Islam is considered a purification of wealth. It's a charity that is an obligatory charity. You're also encouraged to give throughout the year, but specifically this type of charity, the zakat, that is one of the pillars, is 2.5% of your wealth. So not like you happen to have a little bit from this last paycheck, but if you've had this money in your account, in your storage for the last year, then paying 2.5% of it is required of all mature Muslim, people who've reached the age of accountability, which in Islam is puberty. If you don't have that money, then you're eligible to receive it. So if you think about it, it's this kind of built-in social network, a network system where everybody would be taken care of, and it's not a big burden. The 2.5% is not like an onerous amount. The fourth pillar of Islam is fasting. You've probably heard, and we just finished it, we were on a lunar calendar, so we've just concluded about a month ago the month of fasting, which is during Ramadan, the 9th lunar month. And this is a time where we fast from sun up to sundown each day. You're abstaining in this time from any sort of ingestion of food or water. Any marital sexual relations during the fasting times are prohibited, and other like non-marital are prohibited all the time. And then the other sort of what they call is the higher fast or the deeper fast is your manners. So you could not eat and drink and still be sort of grouchy, angry, and sort of do ill to other people. So that's considered that you could be wasting your fasting time or the reward. To get the full reward, you're also working on disciplining your own behaviors and manners. So this is a time where you'll see a lot of Muslims, because the rewards are multiplied, will be eager to do more acts of charity, to come together in congregations, to recite the Quran more, because the reason of the timing of Ramadan is that was the month in which the Quran was revealed. So these are times where people are together. And so thinking about, in order for Muslims to sort of make it to heaven, and any of us to make it to heaven, there's more reward to do these things in congregation or in community. You can't give money without somebody giving and someone receiving. When you pray in congregation, you're together. When you fast, and breaking fast in congregation or helping others break their fast is considered rewarded. And then finally, the fifth pillar, which is the pilgrimage to Mecca. That's where, the earlier story about Malcolm X, that's where he was going. And we're at the brink of some folks will be within the next couple of weeks this is a Hajj season, preparing to make that pilgrimage to Mecca. So in Mecca, we consider this to be the largest peace and faith convention that has occurred historically over time. There will be millions of people, millions of Muslims coming to Mecca, which we consider to be the place where there was the first house that was dedicated, the first place of worship dedicated to the worship of Allah. So you've probably seen the Kaaba, that small mosque. It's like a cube that's covered in a black cloth with a gold embroidery. The word Hajj means, in terms of the Arabic language or translation, to strive continuously towards one's goal. And one's goal for Muslims is very, very simple: submitting to the pleasure of Allah. We are here to submit to Allah's pleasure in all the different ways that can take. A smile is charity, taking care of your children, singing and bringing joy to people. All of these things can be types of submission. So we already mentioned what the dress may be like. So thinking about, that there is no royalty in a place like Hajj. So really helping us sort of think about a more egalitarian framing in that space, so that when we leave that space, we can continue to have that. So the egalitarian framing and that reminder of what that great assembly will be once we are resurrected and everybody is there. And maybe the last thing I would mention about that also is I had the opportunity to go, and the story of Hajj is not the story of the life of Prophet Muhammad. It's the story of the life of Prophet Abraham and the sacrifices that he and his family made. So his wife Hajar, now I'm blanking on the name in English, and their child Ismail, the sacrificial lamb, being asked to, sacrifice him as a test of his faith, and how his son was also faithful, how his wife was faithful, and being in those spaces and seeing those, thinking about, how have I been tested? How have we been tested? How do we show up for those tests from our Creator? And will Allah find us as being really submitting to the will of Allah, trying to sort of show our humility and our patience and our willingness to sort of show that inner beauty, and not the quick to why me, knowing that there's, we've been chosen for a good test. So we've been chosen to be here together. I really thank you all for that. I think about the Unitarian Universalist, and when we were talking about my coming here, I've had some background in terms of some research with youth, and And one of the things that really struck me is how a lot of youth who have felt scorned from their faith traditions have found a home with Unitarian Universalists. And that has been just so big for me to think about how do we, in these difficult times where sometimes it feels like things are so fragile and so frail, how do we create spaces and those communications? So thank you all for having me and for welcoming everyone.
Please join in singing hymn number 23, Bring Many Names. Masks on. Thanks. The first 4 verses, yes. This thing is tricky. Okay. Well, we've come to the part of the service called pastoral prayer. I'm not a pastor. I don't usually pray. I don't really know how to write a prayer. If this were an ordinary week, I might have read a prayer from the UU hymnal or one online. And those prayers are beautiful, inspiring, comforting. We hear them often. But it isn't an ordinary week. These are extraordinarily difficult times. I had not consulted with Mona, so I'm going to say many of the things that Mona has shared with us. It can't be business as usual. So I want to take a page from Steve Kerr, the NBA coach of the Golden State Warriors. He, like many others this week, has shouted out. At a pregame press conference, he said, "I refuse to talk about basketball. In the past 10 days, we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California. And now we have 14 children murdered at school." This was when it was initially known, but of course we know it's more than 14, and teachers. "When are we going to do something?" he says. "I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm tired of moments of silence. Enough." He went on to invoke the 50 senators who refused to vote on H.R. 8, the background check rule that the House passed 2 years ago, imploring them to do something. Then he said, "We're going to play the game tonight, but I want every person here to think about how your own child, your grandchild, mother or father, sister, brother, how would you feel if this happened to you today?" So we're going to go on with our service. Of course, our hearts and thoughts go out to all of those suffering from these devastating events in our country and across the globe, because the war in Ukraine is still going on, even if it's not headline news anymore. Of course, I want to offer hope to those in our church community who are suffering in mind, body, and spirit. If I can pray, I'll say, may there be a way to find peace. May there be a way to create change. And despite the helplessness and hopelessness that is easy to feel right now, I am grateful that we can have a service about finding beauty, as we do have to find ways to see beauty amidst the unspeakable ugliness going on around us. It is still there. Today's offering is dedicated to the services and ministry of First Parish, Milton. Here's how to give. Simply text 617-539-7576, putting only the amount you'd like to give in the text message. Do not add words, only the amount. You will receive an automatic text message back. For those of you here in the meeting house, if you'd like to donate by cash or check, please place it in the offering plate in the back on your way out. If you are proud of this church, become its advocate. If you care about its future, share its message. We welcome all to build a just and healthy world with faith, love, and compassion. Your presence, your participation, and your support bring this vision alive. Please give as generously as you are able to support this faith community.
Good morning. All right.
For a lot of people, including many of the men and women and they who gave their services, and many people their lives for this country, the experience of being an American citizen hasn't always been experienced as inclusive or has been a just one. This simple but extraordinary song, I think I learned it in the 4th grade, but it reminds us that if your ancestors were the original indigenous people of this country, this is your land. If your ancestors came here willingly or were brought here against their will, this is your land. And if you were born here, whether or not you know of your ancestry, or if you've come from another country to make this home, well, this is your land. And this song was written by Woody Guthrie in 1940, 80 years ago. I feel like very old. And but he wrote it after witnessing the discrepancy and the lopsidedness in the distribution of land and wealth as he traveled the country as a musician, and also that he experienced himself growing up poor in rural Oklahoma. So if you know this song, feel free to join in with Claudia and I. And for those of you who are wondering about the jean jackets, we did not plan this. I think we were channeling our Woody Guthrie, so feel free to channel your Woody Guthrie today. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me.
As I roamed and I rambled, I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts, while all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me.
In the shadow of the steeple, I saw my people. By the relief office, I seen my people as they stood there hungry. I stood there asking, is this land made for you and me? This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and
when the sun came shining and I was strolling and the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling as the fog was lifting. A voice was chanting, this land was made for you and me.
Nobody living can ever stop us as we go walking down that freedom highway. Nobody living can ever make us turn back. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
Please join in saying the unison dedication. May these gifts be transformed into strength for this faith community, into comfort, food, and shelter for those in need. And may we be transformed by generosity. Our closing hymn is number 318, We Would Be One.
May the splendor of the earth and each other guide us to affirmation, affection, and advocacy for the beauty of this life meant for all.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye. Happy holiday.
Happy holidays.
Well deserved. Hey, Lori. Happy holiday. Tell Carl happy holiday.
Hi, India. I bet they're going to cut us off.
Probably. Tell Carl I said hi, bye. Enjoy your holiday.
I will. You're doing good?
Yeah, doing,
You're doing.
you know. How about you?
We're fine,
Yeah,
more or less.
just doing.
I know. It's
All right. Well, I'm gonna keep on doing.
all right.
See
Enjoy
if I
today and tomorrow, especially.
hardware store if I can. That's my big goal.
I
My
love
big
the
goal.
hardware store on Memorial Day.
It's my favorite. Love it. See you later.
All right. Bye.
Leaving. Church is over.